Hey everybody, welcome to Battlefield Podcast episode 153. I'm Ola aka Chalk1 and we are here today to talk about Battlefield 4 now that E3's coverage of Battlefield 4 is over. I'm here with Tim aka Darkness49. Hello Tim, how's it going?
Hey guys, doing really well.
And we also have our guest today. We got Cory from Battlefieldo, Mr. President over there. How's it going?
Hey, how are you guys? Doing good.
So, Battlefield 4, we saw a lot at E3. I think a lot more than at least I had anticipated. I don't know about you guys, but I just want to shoot it right over to you, Cory, and ask you what you thought of what we saw so far of Battlefield 4.
I thought it was freaking awesome. I think the amount of information was immense. I mean, we didn't really get a whole lot out of the. Well, I guess the first thing we saw was the single player demonstration at the actual E3 or Microsoft. I guess they did that on the Xbox.
Yep.
Yeah, on the Xbox One.
And then we saw some multiplayer when the actual EA event started later in the day. But I think we're talking about a night and day difference when it comes to the information we got when Battlefield 3 was on stage at E3. I mean, what do we have, like 30 seconds of gameplay? And that was it.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I mean, they've just overloaded us. I mean, I can tell you all the guys who work on BFO, like all of them are exhausted. Like our fingers are about to fall off from all the tweeting and news posting we've been doing. So I definitely like the way they went about it. They were just like, here's the game. Here's like 90% of what's going to be in it. You know, we hope you like it. It was awesome.
I think a lot of that has to come with that they're just building on what's already been established. With Battlefield 3, it was a brand new engine. Like everything was brand new. It smelled like a brand new car. There wasn't anything that was used. With Battlefield 4, it's just a lot of the things from Battlefield 3 as a really solid foundation, and then they're just adding the toppings for Battlefield 4. So I think that's why they can show up to E3 this year with pre-alpha gameplay and let people play it and have people even record it and put it up on YouTube because they don't care. They know that even at a pre-alpha stage, it looks really good.
Well, actually, I think they did a really good job of live streaming for 3 days, pretty much straight. I mean, they did like 5 hours a day at least. And not only was it commentated and they had a lot of interviews with some of the guys from DICE, but so much gameplay footage, all sorts of different angles. And what they really did differently this time, I think, with the aspect of YouTube and live streamers in general, is they said, go ahead, use it. You know, we're confident enough that, yes, it's pre-alpha, and yeah, there's going to be a half an arm floating around every once in a while. But this is what we have, and we're proud of it, I guess. So,
yeah.
What was the standout feature or part of Battlefield 4 that you saw, Cory?
It's hard for me because they're, you know, as a Battlefield veteran, dude, that like commander mode was of course awesome. I'm stoked about that coming back because I feel like all of us are, you know, just the three of us and probably everybody that's watching this are pretty hard PTFOers. And it's great when you have a resource like a commander who can, you know, drop in UAVs and, you know, spot targets. And, you know, it's great to have that asset. But at the same time, you know, I've really always wanted to be able to get Battlefield into esports. And I think the spectator mode thing is just awesome with the free cams. And it's going to open up so many possibilities for YouTubers, for streamers, for the esports market. I think they opened a lot of doors with bringing in the spectator mode and the free cam, and you know it just looks wild. I mean, even in pre-alpha, watching them fly that little camera around, it was like, wow, this is how Battlefield 3 should have been.
Yeah, I like what Daniel said when he was talking about why he was asked the question why they brought spectator mode in now, and he said, I think the community is ready. He talked about the evolution of streaming on Twitch and Ustream and YouTube and how 2 years ago that wasn't a big thing, and now we've made this huge jump into live video all the time, and the esports, how it's starting to develop and really make a foothold in the gaming industry. So I think he was right. I think what he said was true, that the Battlefield community is ready, and this is just another tool that they can use.
I think actually spectator mode was really cool of them to show off throughout the entire 3 days. I mean, everything in the live stream was done in spectator mode, which caused a little bit of confusion at first for people watching it, thinking like, why is this guy shooting the blue guys, not the red guys and stuff like that? But they could have easily just put it aside and shown 2 minutes of spectator mode and said, here we go. we did it. We did what you asked for, and you know what? People would have been happy, but they used the tool extensively the whole time, showing the different angles and all that stuff, which was quite bold almost of them to do that. I want to talk a little bit more about Commander mode, though. It's back. Cory, you said being a Battlefield veteran, that's something that you really look forward to. What do you think they did well in as far as advancements that they've shown? The fact that you can control and be the commander without physically being in the game, without taking up a spot in the game, doing it on a tablet. What do you think of some of the innovation here?
Well, I could be wrong. I think we're going to be able to do Commander in the actual game, and then you're also going to be able to do it on the tablet if you want.
Right.
Is that right, Tim?
Yeah. So what they're going to do is that you have the ability to use your tablet, but it's limited. You're not going to have features like the onboard streaming from a squad leader's perspective, things like that, just because of bandwidth limitations. But the actual commander tools that you have in game, you'll also be able to use on the tablet.
Yeah, so it sounds like, whether you're on a PC or whether you're just sitting on your couch, I mean, for me, I get to the point where after I've been playing a game for a while, I'll play for 3 or 4 hours, and then I still like to hang out and talk to the guys and listen in. But for me, it seems like it'd be awesome to just play for a couple hours and get in the fight, play a little bit, and then go chill on the couch and still kind of help out my guys and see what's going on, in the battle, and being able to do it on my tablet. So I definitely think the tablet thing is cool. I know a lot of games are going to that. We saw the Tom Clancy game where you can control the drones with them. I mean, I think there's a lot of really cool tablet stuff coming. I wouldn't say that's the coolest thing I think I've seen about the Commander feature. It's just the Tomahawk missiles and, being able to put the AC-130 on station. And there's been a lot of people like tweeting and talking even on the live streams. I think Level Cap was saying how, if the commanders could very, very easily be overpowered. And, I think it's quite the opposite. I think a commander is only empowered by what his troops on the ground are doing. If you're not listening to my orders, or if you're not getting these objectives, I may only have a UAV that I can put up. I can't call in a Tomahawk or an EMP. So I think it's completely based on how good your team is, not just how good the commander is.
DICE has created this tug-of-war system. They've made it so that each capture point gives you a certain perk, a Tomahawk missile, like you said, an AC-130, or a vehicle drop. And so if your squad members aren't doing what you're asking them to do or holding certain points, then the enemy team is going to have all those assets to their disposal, and your team's going to fail miserably because they're going to be destroyed. I think that was a very incorrect statement to say that the commander is overpowered. I think we start using the statement overpowered very loosely now. We just say everything's overpowered, and that's not true. It's just I don't think people have an understanding or even an appreciation for what the commander mode could really do for players.
Yeah, did you also see that the commander screen, you can see how far each squad is on their progression too?
Yeah, it'll give you those, like Ola and I were talking about earlier, the field perks.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think what they tried to do is, in Battlefield 2, sometimes you had a commander that was doing way too much damage and racking up points and not supporting the team, and other times you'd have a commander that was on the other end of the spectrum that wasn't helping the team at all. So they really tried to mesh the two together and have rewards both for the team and for the commander that, if they work together, will help out everybody. So we'll see how that plays out in practice on public servers, but I know that in some of the more organized matches it's going to play a vital role, I think.
I think in general, DICE has done a really good job with Battlefield 4 in the sense of teamwork. In the Battlefield series, they've always tried really hard to figure out a way of getting the teamwork factor to actually work in game, giving them certain incentives like extra points or extra perks. But now having the ability to reward the commander because that your squad's actually working together, I think that is hitting the nail on the head right there.
What are some of the other things that you thought stood out? I mean, naval warfare is something that we didn't see in Battlefield 3, so that's new. There's a bunch more options on the customization as far as character classes, weapons, sidearms, camo on armor, and things like that. Do you think they've taken it the next logical step further? Have they gone too far, not far enough? What do you think?
I think they've gone just far enough for it to be considered, for it to feel like a new game and not, Battlefield 3.5 or not some DLC. I think with the commander mode, with spectator, with, we don't even know what kind of esports integration is going to be there. I assume from the statements from Daniel on the stream and with spectator mode being there, I assume there's going to be some partnerships with some esports leagues that'll be coming along. And I think it's a new game, and it looks and it kind of feels a lot like Battlefield 3, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a con by any means because Battlefield 3 looks and feels great. There were some things about it that needed to be polished out a little bit. I definitely think that they're gonna, they've definitely stepped it up, and in my opinion, it is its own new game in a badass franchise, and I think they've done a lot of due diligence, a lot of respect to the veterans that are out there who like things like commander mode. And I think they've, Tim and I were talking about this on Skype or on Twitter. We were saying, they brought back a lot of really awesome vintage features from different Battlefield games, jet skis, commander mode, really, really cool stuff that people liked. But yeah, it's its own game for sure.
I don't want to get into a whole thing on consoles, but I know that you used to play Battlefield 3 mostly on the Xbox 360. With the next-gen consoles coming out this fall, and some of the improvements in the game that are going to be on the next-gen consoles, what's your opinion on if Battlefield 4 is a big enough step? Does it bring the next-gen consoles closer to the PC? Does it make the game more similar? Because right now there's a fairly large difference between Battlefield 3 on a console and Battlefield 3 on a PC.
Yeah, being a console player, I never played Battlefield 3 on PC. A couple of times for tournaments and charity events, but for the most part, my PC soldier that's ranked up was a friend of mine that I work with who played on it. I like being able to play with my friends, and for Battlefield 4, we're going to be making the switch from console to PC just because we're already on PC for some of the other games, and the new consoles aren't really as appealing to us. But I can say that if I was getting an Xbox One, it would be a night and day difference. I mean, we're talking about 64 players on a console and a Battlefield game. That's never happened. Being able to do commander mode from the console, 60 FPS on the console. I mean, stuff like that's never been really done in a Battlefield franchise in the console. And of course, that Battlefield is still kind of new to the console. I mean, it's only been 6 years that there have been Battlefield games in console. This community is a predominantly massive PC community. It's important to me. I think all of the openness that DICE has done this week with E3, the developers tweeting out, answering questions, the bombardment of information with live stream, they really haven't been holding anything back. And I think that is going to be, that's the family, that's the community feeling that the Battlefield community needs to get back to where we were. Because for 3, it was very chopped up. It was, you're a PS3 guy, you're a Xbox guy, you're a PC guy, and everybody was hating on each other, And I think when we balance these things out, the technology, when we say everybody's going to be running on 60 FPS, everybody's going to be playing 64 players, I think it takes away some of that, separation and segregation that goes on between the platforms.
Yeah, it's a good point. Even though they gave us a lot of information about Battlefield 4, is there anything that you thought was still outstanding, things that still needs to be answered, or sort of like the most pressing things? Being from the Battlefieldo community, you get a lot of feedback from people in your forums and comments on the posts that you guys make. Is there anything that stands out where people have said, you know what, I really wish they would have shown this, or I still want to know how that works?
I think people, I've seen a lot of questions about Battle Recorder. I understand the need for that, but at the same time, if they can kind of meet me halfway, if they can meet us halfway and give us the tools to do the recording ourselves, I understand a need for it. Some people want to have their games pre-recorded and go back and have, and with the consoles, you're going to be able to have that. I hope they bring that to the PC, because I know on the Xbox One and on the PS4, it'll record the last 10 or 20 minutes with the game DVR and stuff. So, I hope that that's something that they think about with the PC platform. But if not, I know that I'm more than happy with just the spectator and free cam mode. If I want to turn on fraps and do my own thing, then that's great. But there's really nothing I can think of. I mean, even Android support for Battlelog. I mean, it's like they've blasted us with so many different things, and hit the head on so many nails. It's like it's hard for me to think of a con right now. I almost don't want to. I don't want to ruin it for myself. Yeah.
That's probably not a bad idea too, actually, because they did give us a lot. I want to talk to both of you guys. Maybe talk a little bit about this whole concept of levolution that they introduced. Dynamic map changes. I mean, it was certainly a big feature that they showcased over and over. I mean, that skyscraper came down every round, and every time it happened, they paused for it, and everybody sort of shed a little tear as to how epic that looked.
Right.
What do you think of the feature in general, and what the potential is for Battlefield 4? Not just for what we've seen already, but potentially for DLCs and for other maps that are going to be included that we haven't seen yet. Just the potential in general. Tim, what do you think?
I think the idea of dynamic map changes opens up a door of endless possibilities. The things that they can do, you could speculate on so many things, like a dam exploding and flooding a valley underneath it, or hell, a meteorite coming and crashing into a building, and other things. There's so many different things that could happen with this new dynamic map changes that we're seeing in the Battlefield universe. It's very impressive to see this whole idea of changing a player's surroundings and making them have to adapt to these changes are really going to make the Battlefield players have to think while they're playing. You end up getting into this mode of just crunching and just going for it and just constantly just playing the same thing over and over and over again. But now you don't know when something's going to happen. The tower can come down and collapse at the beginning of the game, at the end of the game. At a moment that you're not expecting it. So you always have to keep those things in the back of your mind and constantly adapt to your environment. And I think that's something that we definitely need now as technology is progressing forward.
What do you think, Cory?
Yeah, I think levolution is awesome. It's definitely a word that's been dropped a lot this week. It's like now I almost want to say it, levolution in my sleep. But I think it's awesome. It's a awesome concept. We had destruction, then we had destruction 2.0, and now we've got levolution. I can't wait to see what comes next. Whether it's in a DLC form or whether it's in Battlefield 5 or whatever. I mean, I think we're eventually going to get to the point where Battlefield is, or where DICE is developing maps that can be completely 100% destructible. I like the fact that we're kind of tapering ourselves into it. There's only certain buildings that can affect the actual gameplay like that. I do like that you can't just blow up any random building and it change everything. Like with the one map we've seen, it's on top of Charlie. I think it's really, really cool that you can destroy the building and then it comes back as a pile of rubble. That's awesome. Yep. We've never had that before in a Battlefield game, and it's certainly a new badass aspect that I don't think anybody was really ever thinking about. And this is what makes DICE so great is like, I can't remember ever reading a forum post or a tweet anywhere that was like, hey, why don't you give us the ability to destroy an entire skyscraper and then have a flag that's on top of the rubble? They were just like, no, we're just going to do that and then see what people think.
Yeah. Like we had the tower falling in Caspian border, and that I remember the first time I ever saw it was mind-blowing. The idea of a building actually, some object actually falling over and killing everything in its path and happening in real time was mind-blowing. And to me, like, that was enough. But to have this event that isn't scripted, like the tower falling in Caspian border, it's due to a player's decision to make this action happen, is really cool. It's putting it on the player, not on the developer.
Yeah, it really is. And to Cory's point is that DICE has this ability to take something from nothing to destruction 2.0 to, we heard rumors of dynamic weather, which right now seems so redundant. It's like, who cares if it's raining? That building just fell over and changed the entire map. So I think it's going to be really cool to see what the other maps look like. I know they did say that not every map's going to be like the one we saw. I mean, not every map's going to have a skyscraper coming down, but it's nice to have some of that those microdynamic changes they talked about as well, just metal detectors going off when you run through them. I always thought that should have been the case in some other games that I've played, when you walk through a metal detector carrying 5 weapons on you and nothing happens. It's those little realism things.
Well, on the
that
map we
make the
did
difference.
see, did you guys see the barricades? Like
Those
they come up and
bollards.
down.
Yeah,
Oh man,
they're called
awesome.
bollards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's cool is those bollards actually have two sides. They have a green side and a red side. So the green side, you can actually pass through the bollards, but on the red side, you can't. So that's cool because that can change a strategy of a player. If you put up these bollards and a tank can't get through, you've completely created a choke point that you've bottlenecked this tank into a point where then he could get ambushed by a bunch of engineers with rocket launchers. The possibilities are endless with Battlefield 4. At least that's what I've seen so far with the alpha footage.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I also like the motion balls coming back. You know, gotta have your balls.
Gotta have your balls in Battlefield.
So now E3's, for all intents and purposes, over, at least as far as Battlefield 4 is concerned. We know that there's been talk about the DLC that brings back 4 of the most popular maps from Battlefield 3. We don't know what that is yet. Do you want to speculate as to what it might be, or do you have any inkling as to when we might hear more from DICE?
I don't have any speculation. I assume they're going to take the more 4 most popular maps. I think there's a bad taste in people's mouth from Metro just because of the way it plays and the choke points. So I feel like DICE being DICE, not wanting to really give up on an idea that they've been passionate about. I hope in some way, shape, or form, if they do decide to bring Metro, they completely rework it, maybe make it completely outdoors, maybe have it blown up, But there's too many choke points. But it's still a very popular map because of its intensity. So I think that's things that they're going to take into effect. I think they're going to talk about, all right, we want to bring back some classic maps for people who are infantry based. We want to bring back some awesome maps for people who are vehicle based. You've got to be able to tailor to every Battlefield player. Wake Island comes to mind. It was not that great in Battlefield 3. Maybe they'll find a way to make it better in Battlefield 4. I personally hate Wake Island in Battlefield 3, but I love it in the previous Battlefield.
Yeah, so much better Battlefield 2.
Yeah. So it's like, there's some vintage maps. It'll be interesting to see if they decide to bring in Battlefield 3 maps that are brand new to Battlefield 3, or if they stick to the actual franchise like legacy maps. Like Karkand and Wake.
I would like to see some of the Battlefield 2 maps coming in one of the DLC packages. Like we had the Back to Karkand maps, but we didn't have any of the Chinese maps that we saw in Battlefield 2. And now that we have the PLA that we're playing against this time around, it would be cool to have those maps like Dragon Valley. And some of the other ones, I can't even think of them.
Yeah, Dakeen oil fields.
Yeah, Dakeen oil fields.
Yeah.
Oh man, oil fields would be great.
So I mean, there's so many things that you could do now that we're working with a new faction. I'm excited to see what these new DLCs. We haven't really heard anything on premium. We know it's coming, but we actually haven't seen a model for premium yet, have we?
Nope, nothing really out on premium. I think everybody kind of expects that, though, at this point. It's not going to be, there's so many hurdles that we had to get over for Battlefield 3. In the beginning, there was no information. We did the BF3 blackout. There were so many negatives about Battlefield 3, when it first, it was like E3 and then no communication until like almost the launch of the beta. And that was bad for the community. It was bad for guys like you and people like Battlefieldo. We're trying to get the news out and serve the community. So it makes it extremely difficult. And when those people get frustrated, then everybody gets frustrated. But with this, it's like, I feel like we already know 85% of what's going to be in the game in terms of weapon. I mean, there's a lot of weapons we saw. I'm sure there's a crap load we didn't see. We only saw one map, but we saw gameplay. We saw vehicles. But there's a lot of familiarity that comes over from Battlefield 3. But I think, like, we're ready for premium, so it's like, what else can they hit us with that's going to make Battlefield 3 kind of negative? At this point, I don't really know. I don't know if there are or will be any, because we're just used to the idea now that we're going to have to pay for DLC in a package like deal or separately,
Right.
Yeah, and it's not exclusive to Battlefield anymore. I mean, other games have season passes. It's sort of almost a common thing now to have, and I think some people actually welcome that now, where they know that, when Premium for Battlefield 3 first came out, there was maybe some doubt. Are we really going to get 4 DLCs or 5 DLCs for what we're paying here? And, you know, it happened, and everything turned out the way that it was supposed to. They delivered on, I mean, aside from maybe some of the weapons not being DLCs, whatever. But, you know, things came out, and I think, in general, people would say that they got their value out of the $50 or whatever they paid for Battlefield 3 Premium. So I think I agree. I think we're definitely going to see something like that for Battlefield 4, and I'm encouraged by the amount of information that they've released so far. And like you said, I almost have a feeling right now that I need to take a couple of days just to digest everything that's been said. There's hours and hours of video and live streams that's archived that people can watch, and I'm sure someone's going to dissect down to the nitty-gritty of every little weapon. And we're going to start seeing content on YouTube and various community sites, you know, spewing out for the next weeks. So it's almost like DICE bought themselves a few weeks or maybe a month or two of time before they need to come out with more information regarding things, just to let the community, you know, digest all the information. What do you think, Tim, is next for Battlefield Podcast and what we got coming up here?
Oh, man. So we have a lot of just small videos on the alpha footage that was streamed the past 3 days from E3. So definitely keep an eye out for that on our YouTube channel, Battlefield for Battlefield Podcast, youtube.com/Battlefield Podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, what the hell's wrong with you? And so we're just going to ride the train. We're going to be just waiting to see what comes from DICE next. We're going to just try to stay in touch with our contacts that we have at DICE and just try to expand that a little bit more and see that what we can get out of them, you know, in a respective manner.
What about you, Cory? What's coming up for you and Battlefieldo? Any plans over the next little bit to summarize some of the information from Battlefield 4? I know you have some posts up already with details that you guys have been posting diligently as things kind of got confirmed and announced. So what's coming up for you guys?
Yeah, we're just going to stay on top of the news, and we encourage everybody to, as you make videos and content or articles or, you know, anything, just, you know, get it up on the site. You know, make sure we see it. We try and get everything out there and retweet it. We have a pretty big audience. It grows daily. So we're here. We're a community site. You know, it's not a business. It's a place where we want people to come and post stuff and get it out. We want to give the small guys a chance to be at E3 next year. As far as the site goes, you know, we're making some enhancements. We're updating graphics. You know, we're pretty focused on this new idea we have of overpowered. So I'm looking forward to giving you guys some more information on that soon. But we're going to be on top of the Battlefield news, so just follow us on Twitter or go to battlefieldo.com.
Awesome, and we want to thank everybody that's been watching our live stream over the last few days and hanging out in the chat and just talking Battlefield 4 with us in general. Tim mentioned where you can find us. BattlefieldPodcast.com has all the links as well. And, of course, this podcast is going to go up on iTunes and YouTube in the next little while. And, yeah, there'll be lots more, I think, from everybody in the community. It's almost like a shot of adrenaline. You know, Battlefield 3 was just getting to the point where people were getting pretty tired of it. And then you could tell people were reaching for new ideas to keep things alive. So the timing of E3 and all the information came just perfectly. So thanks to everybody that was watching right now and has been watching for the past few days, and keep it up, and we'll be back soon. Thanks, guys.